Welcome back to Southern Character, where we share stories of grit and grace. I am your host, James Lewis, and today we're celebrating two milestones. It's a very special day. We're celebrating the launch of Retire Southern and the Southern Character podcast, and we're also celebrating the release of Daron's third book entitled Microwins. Now, yeah, you clap. It's fine. All right. Wes Moss, always good for it. So there is a connection, believe it or not, between Microwins and Retire Southern. So in order to share that story, I need to go back in time about 6 months. May 2nd, 2024. I was at a conference in Austin, Texas. And ironically, I tried to talk myself out of going to the conference like we all do. I got a million things to do. I shouldn't have work and life and kids. I shouldn't be going to this conference. But I went. And Daron gave the keynote address at this conference. And it was so powerful. His message struck me like a bolt of lightning. And I'm not joking. I didn't even care who was coming up next. As soon as he left the room, I made a beeline for him. Now, it took me a second to catch up to him. As you can see by looking at me, I'm built for comfort, right? Not speed. So but I tracked him down. And I delivered probably the most pathetic elevator pitch you've ever heard in your life, which was something along the lines of, hey, my name's James. I just started Retire Southern. There's also a podcast. I don't even have a website yet. I haven't published or produced a single episode. But I want you to be a guest on Southern Character and share your story. Thought he'd say no. He just looked at me and said, absolutely, here's my email address. I was like the dog that caught the mail truck. I was like, great. Yeah, now what do I do? But the way things unfolded, and I'll just tell you this, not to bury the lead, 174 days later, in an avalanche of Microwins, we're sitting here, right now. And I'll tell you the honest truth. If I hadn't gotten on that plane to go to Austin and I hadn't met Daron, Retire Southern would not be where it is today, and we would not be recording this podcast right now, right here in this moment together. And I am very grateful for that. So I'd like to introduce Daron K. Roberts, originally from Mount Pleasant, Texas. Daron is, a Harvard Law grad, a former NFL coach, a husband, a father of 5, a published author, obviously, a top 20 global keynote speaker, and the chief dive officer of Deep End Ventures. Daron, yes. It is my pleasure to welcome you to Southern Character.
What a hell of an intro. This guy's a professional.
Been doing it for 6 months.
So, I flew in this morning and I thought to myself, my first flight on an airplane was from Love Field to Hartsfield, 1997, to interview for the Coca-Cola scholarship. Right? And I was a bubbly 17-year-old. And so this city, 7 continents later, it's good to be back. And you talk about 174 days. This man sends more emails, but they're so concise and to the point, right? He's like, look, and he's a lover of bullets. So he's like, look, I've got 3 things for you. Boom, 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 boom. And I just love it. I'm like, yes, go. So it's good to be here. I'm excited. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. No, I'm so glad you can make it. I know you're leaving town tomorrow.
Yes.
Right. So I do want to get into Microwins, but where I would love to start, in 2019, you released a book called Call an Audible about your pivot from Harvard Law School to the NFL. Yeah. Can you please share a piece of that story?
Yeah, so I'll go back and talk about Southern. So I'm a 5th generation East Texan. There's a tombstone behind the Walnut Grove Baptist Church in Carthage, Texas, that has Bill Roberts, born 1842, died 1912. Blessed be his name. So my roots are deeply embedded, under the pine trees of East Texas. And growing up, I wanted to be governor of Texas. That was the goal up on the chalkboard. I attended the University of Texas. So I had this thing when you're young, you believe in linear life paths. You haven't had enough detours to understand that nothing quite works out the way you want. But in my junior year journal, I have University of Texas, student body president, Harvard Law School, partner at some firm in Houston for 5 years, state senator, governor. Like I picked out the color scheme for the governor's mansion. This thing was just done. And I get to UT, I'm checking the boxes. I'm student body president, check that one. I apply to Harvard Law School. I don't get accepted. I don't get rejected. What's in the middle? The wait list, right? And so anyone been waitlisted here? Sign of hands. You can whoop for the audio. So I'll paraphrase the letter. Dear Daron, we like you. Unfortunately, we like so many more applicants more than we like you. Daron, in the highly unlikely event that all of those individuals turn us down, we may reach back out to you. But if you have any viable options for law school that do not include Harvard, we highly advise you to take advantage of them. With love, Joyce P. Curl, Dean of Admissions. I'm distraught. I'm walking around campus in sackcloth and ashes, and a mentor of mine calls me up and he says, you're headed to DC on Monday. You're going to start working for Joe Lieberman. So I took a Greyhound bus from Austin. I get to DC. It is 2001, just graduated. I don't want to be there. July, August, September 11th. September the 10th, I'm working on education bills. September the 12th, I'm working on national security bills. So something that I oftentimes try to remind myself of is to grow through what you go through. I was in a place where I really didn't want to be and had a front row seat to whatever you want to call it, public policy, crisis management, governance that I could not have really predicted. So I'm in DC. I go to the Kennedy School. I'm still applying to law school. I get waitlisted 4 years. I finally get in. I start law school in 2004. I'm doing what law school students do. In the summer of 2006, a buddy of mine from high school said, hey, why don't you, I'm going to work the Steve Spurrier football camp. Now, side note, I know where we are. I told James last Sunday morning, I said, I will still come if you can guarantee there won't be any dog barks, because I was at that Texas versus UGA game. That was a pathetic showing by my alma mater. Anyway, University of South Carolina, we go there. A coach didn't show up. I volunteer. I coach for 3 days. I fly back into Boston, call my parents, and I say, I'm going to be a coach. My dad said, do you know how much debt you're in? I said, hey, Dad, the loans are in my name. And I wrote a letter to all 32 teams. All of them said no, but one, the Kansas City Chiefs and Herm Edwards. So I graduated on June the 10th of 2007, drove to Kansas City, and I was just the guy picking up wings, right? Like it was literally, my phone could not be turned off. And if someone needed something at any time of the day, I was the guy that did it. And I did that for a season. And then Herm was kind enough to hire me on full time. And that led to 7 years of coaching. Yeah.
Now, I remember there's a part in Call the Audible when you're talking about the grunt work, like picking up like sandwiches and things like that. What really made me laugh when I was thinking about the offensive lineman, you said you would go to a 7-Eleven and basically like buy all the skull.
Oh, gosh.
Just like give me all the cans of skull you got.
I'm sure that in some of the gas stations in Kansas City, there's still like a black and white photocopy of my face. Like, do not sell skull to this man. Because I've never seen so many humans consume so much chewing tobacco. I mean, I would get cases of wintergreen skull and just deliver them to the offensive line room. But I learned there's something special. And I think, I'm 45, I'll be 46 in November. I'm growing more and more nostalgic for those grunt days where you didn't know anything. You also started to get a sense that you didn't know. In high school, my dad says, the two most dangerous people on the earth are high school seniors and college sophomores, right? You're just certain you know everything. And I miss some of those moments, like my first year in the NFL, where every coach on staff made it very clear to me that I didn't know a damn thing. And all I did was sit in the back of the room and take notes. So it was a special time.
Yeah, and I'm not going to dwell on this, but you literally slept in Arrowhead.
Yes. Coleman twin blow-up mattress that I still have.
You still have it?
I still have it.
So Kansas City Chiefs, Detroit Rock Lions, right? Then over to West Virginia, University Mountaineers, and back to the Cleveland Browns. Right. So that was from 06, 07 to 13, right? So I'm just going to ask, as a NFL fanboy, what was your most memorable NFL coaching moment, or just something that when you reflect on your time in the NFL, you still think of that brings you a smile?
That's a good one. 2008, week 2, the Chiefs play at Foxborough against Belichick and company. And it's the middle of the first quarter, and we bring our safety on a blitz that we didn't think was going to get there. It gets there, and he sacks Brady, injures him, and he's out for the year. Okay. Look, when I was coaching, we knew that the most dangerous places to play were Oakland. Like, when we went to Oakland, we barely made it out alive. Kids are tinkling on the bus. Like, it's just bad. Foxborough's up there probably in tier 2. And it was interesting to watch a team try to adjust to losing a guy of that nature. I think that just reminds me that I think oftentimes we have too many plans: plan A, plan B, plan C. In the NFL, you have to have all of those because anything can happen. Just to always be ready for the unexpected.
So you talk about in Microwins, so let's jump into that. And a lot of people struggle with this, with identity. Like, where I work is my identity. That, I think, very much the case. You refer to the NFL as your shield.
Yeah.
Right? But at some point, you divorce the NFL. And to me, correct me, but when I read the breakfast story about Dylan, was that the moment for you where you just said, I'm done with this? Or
Yeah, people ask me, hey, do you miss? I had a ton of buddies at the Georgia game. Like, do you miss coaching? I'm like, no. I enjoy sleeping in my own bed. And I think it's easy for fans to see. You get this product on a Saturday or a Sunday, and you're like, oh, there's just some kids out there playing. But my wife knew that when she hugged me on the August the 1st, first day of training camp, she was not going to see me that much until January 1. So I'm in Cleveland, and we went 4-12, which we thought was a pretty good record. Unfortunately, Jimmy Haslam didn't agree, the owner of the Browns, and so he calls an 8 a.m. coaches staff meeting, and he walks in and he says, guys, appreciate all of your contributions. You're all fired. Meeting started at 8, meeting ended at 8:01. I said, you know what, Daron? No matter where you are one strategic meeting away from being done. One reorg, one market downturn. And I kind of planted a seed in the back of my head. I'm like, let's build something at some point to where you're only working for yourself. But I go home and I'm scrambling eggs. My son comes up and he's like, you eat breakfast. And I just been fired. So I ignore the kid, keep scrambling. He comes back. He's tugging on my shirt. He's like, you eat breakfast? And so I turned to my wife and I said, look, we're paying a lot of money for this Montessori school. Is it too late to get a refund? What in the hell is Dylan talking about? And she asked me, well, when was the last time you had breakfast with Dylan? And so I have this smirk on my face, and I'm surveying my memories. I can't locate a breakfast, lunch, or dinner. And that's when the irony hit me. I'm like, man, I'm spending all of my time with other people's sons, and my own son does not know me. Whether we go 16-0, 0-16, regardless, Dylan does not believe that I eat breakfast. So, we within 3 months we picked up. We packed the U-Haul, go to Austin, started teaching at the University of Texas, started a Center for Sports Leadership, and then transitioned from there 2 years ago to go out on my own. But that's not what that was not in the cards. But there are those moments in life where these inflection points where you're like, I need to change something. And I think for the majority of my life, I may not have heeded what the universe was telling me at the time. But that was one of those moments when I knew I needed to take a detour.
Yeah, that story got me. So let's kick it over to Microwins. Let's light it up a little bit. All right. So in your latest book, you present Microwins, and you define, I'm going to read this because I don't want to get your definition wrong. You define Microwins as small units of victory that chip away at big goals, aka macro wins, right? So micro wins, macro wins. So, and everyone, please take a copy of the book. But the book breaks down into 3 parts. Can you just kind of give an overview of the 3 parts of the book and just talk about the micro win system and how it works?
Yeah, and I'll give you kind of the genesis. My wife, our oldest is 14, our youngest is 7. I very quickly learned that, and for the majority of my life, I've considered myself to be a disciplined person. 5 kids in my home has changed what I thought I knew about discipline, right? So things don't happen unless they're in my calendar. They just don't. And I used to believe in my ability to remember things. And I tell everyone around me, listen, if it's not, we have a Sunday Roberts meeting at 7 p.m. We talk about everyone's games, projects, where I need to be, at what time, what I need to bring. We have color-coded calendars. We've got stickies on the wall. I am one of those people that I understand that if I give myself any room for deviation, I will take it, right? So I've got to have systems. I'm a systems-based human, but I also have some goals that I know will take a long time and a lot of work. And so for me, it came down to what's a daily system that I can use that will feed into the goal? Because we've all, you create your New Year's resolutions. Does anyone know where the research shows what's the average date that 82% of the New Year's resolutions are either forgotten or broken? Oh God, January 15th. Oh my God. So pessimistic. Not too far off, February the 2nd. Feb 2nd. And so, I'm a cheap guy, so I'm a Planet Fitness. I have 529s to contribute to each month. So I'm always looking on the margins. And so you walk into my Planet Fitness on the corner of Menchaca and Slaughter at 5 a.m. on January the 3rd, and it is like standing room only, right? New Lululemons or Aloe or whatever the thing is. We've got, there are tags everywhere. People are doing curls on the Stairmaster. Same time, same place, February the 2nd, it's tumbleweed. And what the psychologists have shown is that humans are really good at generating goals. We're good at starting goals, but here's what happens. You're working out, and after the first week, you're standing in the bathroom, and you're like, damn it, where's my 6-pack? I've been doing this for a week, right? And slowly, your brain believes that what you're doing is not having an impact, and so before long, it fizzles out. So what I've had to do is say, first, what are my macro wins? Like, what are the big goals that I want to accomplish in the 3 areas that I know are the core of my being, right? So for me, it's work, family, and health. And for those 3 areas, what are the macro wins on an annual basis? Like, what are the really big goals that I have in each area? And then what are the daily micro wins that will chip away at those goals? So on the micro wins table, I have some little index cards that has your micro wins for the day. It has a side where it's like, did you achieve them? Why or why not? It's a tracking system that just keeps you going. So if I'm writing a book, I can't think about writing a book. The micro win tomorrow has to be 250 words. It's not a chapter. It's 250 words. And when I get to 250 words, I stop because I've done the math that says, if I do this enough times in 2023, there will be a manuscript on December 31st. I think it's important, not just for work, but for family. I was one of those guys who was like, this is the year I'm going to spend more time with my wife, right? Because you have kids, you realize you're in the same space as your spouse, right? You're on the sidelines and you're in church, but you're not really together. I said, okay, we're going to do a date night every week. I called up our babysitter and I said, hey, I need something from you. She's like, yes. I need a quote for 52 date nights. Give me your best deal. She says, I need to talk to my dad. I said, okay. I said, but I need a deal. She comes back. She's like, Mr. Roberts, I'm not really too comfortable with this. Like, I said, listen to what I'm saying to you. You're going to give me the number. I'm going to pay you tonight. I'm going to Venmo you the entire amount, and they have to be spent this year. She goes, I don't think this is legal. I said, clearly you haven't been in the world long enough. I think we're not doing any derivatives here. I said, listen, because what I know is I got to have some skin in the game. And so every Thursday we just scheduled it and we just date night. But it wouldn't have happened if I just kept saying, oh, we're going to spend more time together.
Right. So when you're writing Microwins, I'm just curious about this as someone who likes to write, haven't written a book, but did you have a specific reader in mind when you're writing Microwins, or was it just like about capturing the system, whether it's like the entrepreneur, the W-2, like who were you thinking of as a reader for your book?
You know, I think the target reader for me was always the overworked and under-rested midlife adult.
Are there any of those in here?
That's kind of the target, which was easy for me to write because, you know, Exhibit A. So like that was what I was writing to. Okay.
Yeah. So the book overall breaks down into the three parts. There's part one is about mindset, right? Part two is about the mechanics of it, and then you get part three is momentum.
Yes.
Right. And the 17 laws, right, of momentum, and each one has an awesome title, and it almost reminds me of a Matthew McConaughey commencement speech, right? Like, don't leave crumbs, right? But green lights.
Green lights.
Right. So I've read the book cover to cover, love it. I need to read it again so I can absorb it. But when you get to the laws of momentum, right, because it's one thing to start, but what keeps you going? And I was just kind of struck by, I'm going to cheat and look at my notes here, because you incorporate this with your family, right, with your kids. So law 8 is learn a new language. And then law 12 is recruit your roommates, right? So can you talk a little bit about how you involve your kids in the system with learning a new language and recruiting your roommates?
Yeah. You know, we are creatures, we are susceptible to external pressure from other humans. So what I quickly learned was if my micro win related to someone in my family, i.e., play 3 games of horse with Jackson, there wasn't a better accountability partner than Jackson. And if I told him before I left in the morning, hey, when I get home, my micro win for the day is to play 3 games. It's going to be best of 3 between you and me. Jackson's not going to let me put my head on the pillow that night until those 3 games go down. So I think the people who are close to you, it's important to integrate that or them into your micro wins and your macro wins in general, but especially your micro wins, because they want to see you succeed and they will provide the little nudge. Hey, have you gotten your 20-minute HIIT workout in yet? You're right. Okay. At halftime, right? I'm going to do it. So everyone, and I'm one of those people where, you know, it's amazing that I'm still married, to be honest with you, because my entire home looks like a coach's office in terms of we have a whiteboard in every room, there is at least one whiteboard because I just need visuals and I need to memorialize what's been said. And so they know, hey, Dad, you got 3 games of horse, or hey, 2 games of chess. And, it's been the healthy nudge that's helped me to keep going.
Just as an aside, I don't know if you're aware of this. So if you want to take it to the next level from whiteboards, yeah, there's surface paint.
Wait, don't tell me.
Okay, yeah,
okay,
it's called Wall Talker. Brian, you probably know about this, but yeah, so it's paint that you can apply to your walls that will literally turn any wall into a dry erase board. So I mean, just ditch the board and just paint all the walls.
My wife hates you from afar. She just feels it in the ethos. She's like, Darren's coming up with something I'm not going to like. I like that, though.
So your wife, Hillary.
Yes.
How long have you guys been married?
15 years.
And you said the age spread is
14 to 7. Okay. So the youngest is 7. So we have 3 boys, 2 girls, roughly 2-year kind of gap between each. And it's insane. Yeah.
That sounds chaotic. So in the chaos, you bring this up a couple times in your book, and I just thought it was interesting. Your presence practice for you seems to be gardening. Is that?
Yes.
Yeah. So tell us more about that.
Yeah, so my wife grew up on a ranch in Leavenworth, Kansas. My mom and dad both grew up on farms, and when I was growing up, they had a quarter of an acre in the back of our home that was, collard greens and tomatoes and beets and all the things, and my dad made me work in the garden. And I told myself, I will never, this was 17, as soon as I have my own plot of land, never will I insert seeds into the ground and seek to harvest any fruit or vegetable, right? That was the promise that I made. And then the pandemic hit. And we started composting. Now, we live in Austin proper, okay? But we've got the compost bins going. And then I build a raised bed. And then I build another one. I was at the University of Texas at the time, and there was a psychologist, a good friend in the psychology department, and I'm telling him about all the stuff that I'm doing. He goes, do you know how beneficial working in the garden is for your, he's always like this. Do you know? I was like, no, I don't know, but I'm sure you're going to cite some research. And you start looking at, 5 minutes of your fingers in soil. They've done all kinds of pre and post testing about all of the positive things that you want to happen to your body, the cortisol levels going down, right? More energy. Just from grounding, they call it grounding, you get this added bump. And so for me, now it's out of control. I've got, we've got it's brassica heaven right now. So it's, collards and mustards and cabbage and all the things. But it's interesting because each one of my kids also have a raised bed. And so I can say to Delaney, hey, run out and get some basil from your raised bed. And they're kind of comparing whose basil's better. But it's just a convenient and, again, it's a healthy nudge, not just to be active, but to also kind of bring the people in my home, into a space that doesn't involve a device.
So as a keynote speaker, right, I think you give 30 plus keynotes a year. What is the most exotic place you've ever gone to deliver a keynote?
That's a good one. Mauritius. So Mauritius, off the southern coast of Africa, small island. I was just there 3 months ago. Amazing. And I've traveled over Africa, but I hadn't been to Mauritius. And my wife's like, why aren't you taking me again? But that would probably be number one for sure.
Yeah. So I was scrolling through, which you're not supposed to do, scrolling through my Instagram feed the other day, and I see Daron Roberts keynote number 470, Port Louis. I couldn't even pronounce the island Mauritius. I'm like, where in the world is that? And I Googled it. It's literally out in the middle of the Indian Ocean. There's Madagascar, and then keep going east. So you have people like me running up to you right? After each show. I was reading in your book, you talk about one guy's like, hey man, I'd love to talk to you. And you're like, look, I'd love to talk, but I gotta, head to the airport. And he literally just got in the lift with you.
Yes.
You're like, hey, I'll just ride with you.
Yes.
What is the most frequently asked question that you get, whether it's at a keynote or from Microwins, people asking you, what is that?
Ooh, this is good. So there are two categories. There are private and there are public questions. The public questions are, the corporate event, you speak for 40, you have 20-minute Q&A, and everyone's boss is in the room, so they're only going to ask certain types of questions. I think the most common private questions, which are probably more interesting to me, the most common one would be, what do you do when the people around you don't support you? And I actually keep a journal of questions people ask me. You just kind of want to see where the heat maps are. And I think I took for granted that I had two loving parents who, my dad was a Baptist minister, mom, elementary school principal. There wasn't much room for deviation in my home, but I'm so thankful for them. And then I have an incredible wife and kids that I took for granted that people were being supported by the people around them. And the more I heard the question, I thought, man, people are dealing with either someone who sleeps in the same bed or who is down the hallway or that you're going to see at Thanksgiving, genuinely not wanting to see you get better. And I never have a great answer to that, right? Because, some of these situations, extraction is difficult. So that would be number one. Yeah.
You talk about this in Microwins, and I think that ties into that point. People that support you, you say this in the book, know the difference between the people in your corner versus the people in your circle. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think I went through a part of my life where I confused my Facebook and Instagram followers with, I probably gave them more credit. A couple things, that piece. Then I also realized just after having kids that everybody's got shit going on, right? Like I used to think that people were really concerned with whether or not I failed or succeeded. And then I realized everyone's busy. They got their own problems. And that really made me double down to realize, okay, look, you can have all these people on social media who may or may not see your post and may or may not put a heart on it. But, one thing that much to the chagrin of my mother, my dad, when I was very young, he would take me to every funeral that he would officiate. And I just sit and, he just take me. And my mom's like, why are you taking him to all these funerals? He's like, don't worry about it. But I remember after getting a good number of those under my belt, I would be surprised. I would say like, oh, I would know the person. And I would think, man, this person's like really big in the community and well liked. And I'd look around the room and I was like, I don't see some of the people that I thought were like really close to her. And I think for me and at this, if the actuarial charts and the universe kind of agree, the midpoint of my life, I'm really trying to spend more time with the people who are going to be at my funeral. Like that's to the point to where I have to schedule. My parents live 320 miles for me, and I have to calendar monthly drives up to Mount Pleasant because I'm like, look, every year it's like, oh, I'm going to see my parents more. I'm going to take the grandkids up more, and it doesn't happen. But I think that like it's that sort of urgency that we've got to incorporate more into our daily life. And
that was when I was at your keynote in Austin, and you had that up on a big board. Like you were flashing really powerful images, and that was one of the images that when I saw it, spend more time with the people you spend at your funeral. I paused. I was like, oh my God, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Right?
Look, the UT Georgia game, one of my good buddies, came in. So there was a group of us. And my buddy turned to me and he said, my wife and I were talking about like his funeral arrangements. I said, wait, are you dying? He's like, no. He's like, I don't know, maybe. He goes, are we all dying? I'm like, yeah. He's like, but he was talking about arrangements. He said, I had to list my pallbearers. And if you outlive me, I want you to be my pallbearer. I'm like, dude, we're at a UT Georgia game. Have we not had enough Modelo? Like what's... But I thought, yeah, I felt the same way about him. And I think that it's easy just to get into this. That's why I talk about waging war against your status quo, because I think it's very easy to assume because we woke up yesterday, it's going to just continue to happen today and tomorrow. And I have too many case studies. We all survived the pandemic, but all of us know that life is very fragile. I think we've probably forgotten that since 2021. But I don't try to get too far away from understanding that this is a fragile existence.
So I mentioned 3 books, right? 2019, you released Call and Audible. And then you just recently released Microwins. There's one in the middle that you released in 2020, a kid's book on empathy. Is that the correct
kid's book about empathy, yeah.
Do you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah. There's a great company called a Kids Co. And they just write their kids' books to kind of distill adult topics. And so it's a kid's book about AI, and there's a kid's book about different topics. And I wrote the kid's book about empathy. Empathy is one of the things that I felt that, back up. My wife forced me to read. When we were fired, she gave me a reading list. And on that reading list included Brene Brown's, it's the one before Dare to Lead. Maybe it was Dare to Lead. The Gifts of maybe even before.
The Henson table's got your back over
this
there.
Woman's bought a lot of books. Yeah. Maybe it was, I don't know. It's a Brene Brown book. Okay. Is it Daring Greatly? What year did that come out? Anybody know? I want to Google this.
Probably.
crowdsource it. Okay, so we'll call it Daring Greatly. And I'm reading and I'm like, I don't want to read about empathy. And I thought at the end of the book, oh, wow. The way she breaks down the practice of empathy, distinguishes it from sympathy, it changed the way that I view the world. And it's something, it's one of the tenets in my home that we're constantly trying to impart to our kids. So it was special for me to be able to write it. Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to lighten it up a little bit.
Boom,
We're going to change gears. And I want to save a little bit of time at the end for live Q&A in case anybody would like to ask Daron a question.
Yes.
But, okay, I came up with this. This is called the lightning round.
Oh, Jesus.
Texas style. Okay. Everything's bigger in Texas. So I have 5 bullets. You mentioned I have 5 bullets on here. So this is the lightning round.
You love you a good bullet.
I do.
James.
And this is get to know Daron, all right? Let's get to know Daron. Okay, number 1, you ready?
Yeah.
Okay, do you line dance?
No. God, no. Okay. I'd have to be very inebriated to do that.
Okay. That's surprising. Okay. I assumed everyone in Texas line dances.
Yeah.
Number 2, and this is actually straight from my friend Tessa Stromdahl. What is your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, I'm such a bad human. I hate karaoke, but
I think you just lost a few fans.
yeah, I know. You don't want to take me out. Let's Get It On, Marvin Gaye.
Oh,
there we go.
Okay.
That's good for the audio.
I won't make any other comment. Here's an easy one: beach or mountains?
Mountains, hands down.
Why is that?
Can I tell you a story? Actually, a year ago, I got a chance to be a part of this writing workshop in the Smokies, Tremont. So I flew into Knoxville and survived the other UT people, and then took a rental car over.
Isn't it the same school, like Orange? No? Sorry.
No. And the first day I called my wife, I had to find a spot, right? I'm like walking around and got a signal. I said, I had been a beach person before that experience, and I had been around mountains. And I don't know if it was like the lack of artificial light at night and I'm from Texas, so I've heard crickets and locusts and all the things, cicadas. I know all that. But the sounds at night and the damn Smokies, it was so funny. I'm 44 and I'm like, I said, Hillary, they're actually Smokies. She said, no shit. That's what they call it, the Smokies. I was like, no, but you wake up and just kind of the fog just lifting and it rains all the time. It did something. Like I always talk about notice when something lights you up. And I told her, I said, so one, we're going to spend more time in the mountains. So I did 8 weeks here in Tremont or Townsend, Tennessee this year for some writing. And I said, we're going to start to strategize a move to the mountains. I don't know what that looks like because she'll get on Zillow in a minute. She's a Zillow maven. Don't send me any listings. But I said, that's going to be something. So I'm sorry. I know this is a lightning round, but you said mountains.
It's a long lightning round.
Yeah.
When you're considering the move to the mountains, are you thinking Smokies? Like, are you coming this way?
I'm thinking Smokies. Yeah, and I've done Rockies, and there's just something. It's that damn smoke. My best writing, I had some periods I'm moving over into fiction. And so I just had some days where I was just like, my desk was overlooked. I moved the desk to the patio. I'm just watching the mountains and I'm just going. And I'd look up and it'd be lunchtime. I'm like, where'd the time go? So yeah, I was in that.
We should get him up to Precipice Lodge. You think so? Andrea?
I'm in. I don't know what the hell that is.
Yeah, I haven't been either. Andrea hasn't invited me yet. All right, back to the lightning round.
Yes.
Favorite experience in the Lone Star State, whether it's family, personal, or guys trip?
So I'm a hunter, and nothing beats the first weekend of deer season.
I never had you pegged.
Yeah.
Are we like black powder, or are we?
No. We're not going that hard out. We're like 30-30s and 243s and, whitetail. But, going out with my dad and my girls and my boys, the first weekend in November, whether you see anything or not, which my kids are loud, so we don't see anything. I don't kill anything unless they're not with me. Man, those are just those are probably some of the most special mornings of my life. So, yeah.
Last question for the lightning round. Who has the best barbecue in Texas, and what is the order?
Oh, gosh. This is going to sound so Cooking Channel-ish. And I don't want to believe it, but every time I go there, I'm like, they do it the right way. Franklin's, and I feel like I should be on that Magnolia magazine cover or something, just saying that. It just seems wrong to say it. They just do it. I haven't had brisket, and I've had a lot of brisket, the way that they do it. That would be the clear number one. Terry Black's would probably be 2 for me. Also in Austin, they got some other spots.
They ship. Terry Black's.
Oh, they do?
Yeah, just ask Wes.
Look at that.
Yeah. They'll ship that brisket.
Yeah, those two, you can't go wrong.
All right, last question for me, and then I'll open it up to the audience. All right, so you mentioned, and you said this in your keynote, you said it a second ago, one of your goals when you were 8, going back to the very beginning of this conversation, before the experts got involved, right? You wanted to be the governor of the state of Texas. So last question, will you be on the ticket in 2026, and will you be endorsed by either McConaughey or Willie Nelson?
Absolutely not. I'm done with politics. I really enjoy my life too much. It's kind of like coaching. I mean, look, there are brief moments on a Sunday or a Saturday where it all comes together and it feels good. But the 6 days that it took to get to that one day, that's just not the kind of math that I want to play in. So I've found other ways to impact the world beyond politics. So no for me. Yeah.
I will pass the microphone around. I can run around the room if you guys want to watch me shuffle around the room. But does anyone have a question they'd like to throw out at Daron? It's fair game. Tyler, right?
Daron, I'll give you 2 options. You can pick one question.
Ooh, I like it.
First one is your favorite conspiracy theory. Or the other option would be if you could have dinner with anybody in history, alive or dead, who would it be and what would you want to talk about with them?
Oh. And I have some good conspiracy theories. I feel like the way our society is, like the novelty of conspiracies just continues to go down like nothing's new. Everyone believes them. I'm going to go with the historical figure. My favorite writer is James Baldwin. I'd have dinner with James Baldwin. And I'd tell him that, most of what he wrote and predicted has come to pass. And I'd ask him what he thinks the solution is. So James Baldwin, yeah. Oh, that's good. Oh, choose your own adventure. I like that. No pressure.
So I got into gardening this past year for the first time.
Yeah.
Your words spoke true to me. I got in because of Babs over here grew tomatoes 2 years ago. So I built a tomato raised box in my front yard. All my neighbors said it looks ridiculous and white trashy and looks phenomenal, and I don't like most of my neighbors anyways. You get into a dark hole very quickly on fertilizing, water, trimming, but whatever. I spent more time, and I'm out there. I had maybe 2 tomatoes for the first, until 4 weeks ago, and now I have 40.
What?
And it's what time? So I realize I have no idea what I'm doing ever in life. So your point about I want to go back and be that child who doesn't know anything, dude, I'm there because I thought I knew everything about what I was going to do. What's your advice for gardening to keep me into it? Because I have no idea what I'm doing.
Oh gosh, I don't either. But I've watched a lot of Instagram clips, so it's interesting because I think the way that the Earth, global warming, you can grow things. I have watermelon growing right now. I don't think we're going to have a frost in Austin. So I'm sort of looking at the entire year. We get some nighttime temperatures that may dip, but I've sort of changed my kind of spring, fall dynamic and have started to kind of mix those seasons a bit. I'll say that, do you compost? You started composting?
I'm fully all in.
Let me tell you, I almost had a divorce over this whole point. My wife came home. Oh, yeah. I thought I had a discussion with my wife about a couple of cedars in our backyard. And I thought I got the green light. And so I just called up the tree guys. And she came home. And she's like, what happened to the cedars? I said, who likes cedars? What do they do? I would say, I think soil for me. like the composting and the nitrogen, I would really geek out on $10 on Amazon, those little soil testers that tells you the pH level, the sunlight area. It's worth it. Yeah.
Darren, thank you. And I should probably stick with conspiracy theories, but kind of listening to you talk about having your card and the kind of things to get your micro wins. How do you think about a new book? Like when the card is blank, you don't have a specific goal that you're trying to tackle. You got to think of something new, and you're kind of thinking of that new thing.
Yeah.
How do you allocate the time or carve out and recognize a micro win to do that?
Yeah. So there are a couple of things. I think my theory is that with digital media, phones, iPads, TVs, all things, we don't do enough observing. There's not enough self-observation, like noticing what lights you up. So there are probably some things that we're interested in that sort of just get ground into the minutia because we're scrolling. I do what I call I practice a cell phone Shabbat. And mine actually is +1. So from Friday night until Sunday night, I am off of my phone. And it has been the most liberating 48-hour span of the week. And what I found was that I was just getting, so many signals from the thing that I wasn't really hearing what I thought about the world or what lit me up. I think if after the observation, you're like, man, I don't really think I have a big goal in mind. I think that's where it turns to exposure. Like, how can I'll talk about like adult internships. Is there a way to get a micro experience at something, whether it's gardening, just for a little bit, right? Like you don't have to go get a raised bed, but you just get a pot and try a thing and just see if it's something you like. I'm a big fan of whether it's travel or reading or little micro experiences at home, almost putting myself through a small scale experiment that's very low stakes. And then at the end of saying, hey, do I want to do more of that? And that's what, I think it's why, like as a parent watching kids, that's all my kids do. They tinker, they like something, they do more tinkering of that thing until it runs out. And then they go find the next thing. So I think almost bringing that playfulness back into adulting, well, I'm not sure it was ever there, but bringing it into adulting is a good way to discover what that thing may be.
You seem like a happily married guy.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
How do you know when you're in love?
Oh, gosh. Is this the Retired Southern podcast, or is this like... Oh, wow. I'm just having this discussion with my oldest son, actually. We're starting to like people. So I think I'm just gonna list what I think may be some characteristics. I think it starts to move beyond, I like this person, I want to spend time with them, this person's cute or whatever. This person's like, I think it starts to move from those kind of check boxes to you can't imagine treating them in a certain way. Because we've all had friends and people that we've been involved with. But I think to the point to where you start to foreclose the options of things that you would do to the other person that would harm them. Why are you laughing at me? Right? Because I think it's easy for someone to look good, smell good, and all the things make you feel a certain way. But when you get past that surface level, I think that it starts to... because I think what happens is you understand that the negative impact to them, it becomes your pain in a way. So you start to foreclose some options that with other people you may not have explored. It's the first time I've gotten that question. I hope that helps. It probably doesn't at all. This is like all the disclosures, like don't follow anything I say. Thank you.
Well, look, I think we're going to wrap it there.
Yeah.
Darren, thanks so much for joining us today on Southern Character. If you want to book Darren for a client event or an employee event, you can go to coachdkr.com.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So thanks so much. We really appreciate everyone coming out tonight.
Thank you so much.
What do you want? What do you want me to do? Don't forget to grab your swag, your books, your koozies, your hats. We hope you'll listen to Southern Character.
Thank you
Thanks
for
so
having
much,
me.
man.
You're damn good at this, man. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you.